some times of year are especially stressful, like the holidays, weddings, tax time, births, and you can't always control everything that's around you.
But we do have control over how we adapt to those stressors and how our body responds. Stay tuned and we'll give you some tips on how to do that.
Welcome to Sage Health TV, a weekly show where we give you tips on optimizing your health and wellness. So please like, follow, and subscribe below so you don't miss an episode. I'm Dr. Yeagley and Dr. Anastasia Jones.
Hi there.
And today we're going to be talking about stress. And this could be, stress really kind of for end of year, stress around holidays, stress around major change, weddings, births, tax time, things like that. And we want to talk today about, what does stress look like in your body, and how does it affect you, and then what can you do about it? What are some tips and tools that you can take away here that can help you through this time to successfully get to the other side?
God, I feel stressed out just listening to that list of things.
Right. But, good. I've got some tips for you.
So the first thing I always talk to patients about is, people will come in and they just have so much on their plate.
Yes.
I see a lot of moms and they're, they work full time and they've got, kids and
dads too.
And dads too. Yeah. Parents and not even, or just people who have like full-time jobs and they're on these boards and they're doing all of these things and they're all great, right? But a lot is a lot. And I tell people even too much of a good thing can be too much.
Right.
And so what can we do to, we can't control all of the outside factors in our life. And sometimes we're committed to things that we need to follow through. And so what can we do to help our body adapt to that stress as best as possible?
Right.
Starting there.
The things we'll talk about today are things that we've used with people, over many, many years and for ourselves as well, definitely, that we have found to be effective at just helping to manage and maybe even, help you get to a better, calmer, happier place because you're feeling better. So you've probably heard of the adrenal gland. So it's a little gland that sits on top of the kidneys.
They're tiny. They're like the size of peas.
Right.
But they do a lot.
Yes, absolutely. And so, they help us with hormone regulation actually and stress. So they produce cortisol, which, when we're 20, we have lots of cortisol. It's an amazing burst. If you're pushing yourself for finals, you're like, I can do this. You stay up late and your adrenals pump it out. And then you recover. As we get older, and I would even say that's after 30 or even earlier if you have a lot of stress in your 20s, that they don't respond like they used to.
And what also happens is, we kind of have this baseline. So we have a stressor, the perceived tiger or perceived threat. Cortisol goes up, and then ideally it kind of comes back down to baseline. And then the next one comes along and it goes up and it comes to baseline. But when we have constant repeated stressors, it's never, I usually have a little chart to draw in.
Right,
yes. We're never getting back to that baseline. So it's like those stressors layer upon each other and the cortisol can go up, 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 up. And then when it comes down, sometimes it goes way down below that baseline. And then we hit a point where
fatigue.
Fatigue. And then it's harder sometimes to find that level. We just have these big ups and downs. And
what we also find, because we do testing with people so we can see this, because you can test cortisol, it's something we like to do. After a while of so many ups, so many times of running from the tiger, that it doesn't do that anymore very successfully, unless you have something that is like, a huge stressor that is life-changing, then it might do it. But otherwise, it starts falling. Yeah. It doesn't spike like it should.
Yeah, and I've had people that are, pretty much
just flatlined.
Yeah. Or what we'll often see too, especially if people are dealing with insomnia, which is a huge secondary effect of stress, is that people will be flat most of the day and then they'll get their spike of cortisol at night, right when they're ready to lie down and go to sleep, and then the brain's going. And
yes, and those are people who think, they'll say that to us, like, all day long I'm struggling, I can't stay awake, and then I hit like 7:30 and that's my go time. Then I can get all my stuff done, and that's what we would call a reverse curve. It's and it's not good for you. That's not healthy.
And people love it though. They're like, I finally have energy. I want to hang on to it. And I was one of those people for a long time, because you're like, I got to get stuff done when I can.
But luckily, Dr. Anastasia has now reversed it into a more normal curve. Yeah. So, if you're like that, or if that resonates with you, what can you do about it? And luckily, there are a lot of different things. So, first, what we do, after we measure, just looking at that picture, first thing is diet. We come down and we really want something that is balancing your blood sugar. And typically that's a combination of healthy protein and healthy fats, along with, really nutrient-rich veggies.
So really limiting refined sugars and refined carbohydrates, things that are just going to give us that rapid surge of blood sugar, because there's a really direct link with blood sugar and the release of cortisol. So when our blood sugar drops because we've gone too long without eating, or we've had, just sugars that give us a spike and then a dip, our body will actually release cortisol as a way of telling the liver to release stored sugars to keep us level. And so a lot of times we get a blood sugar drop and then we get a spike of cortisol. And if you don't have a lot to spare as it is, you've kind of given up some of your cortisol you need throughout the day for one little surge. And that really bump. Starts that roller coaster as well.
So you get this blood sugar kind of picture that is also up and down. So we want to level that out. And again, healthy fats can be really good at keeping you level along with that protein.
And so breakfast, I'm a total believer that it's the most important meal of the day. And, that can vary. I know there's a lot of people doing intermittent fasting, which I'm a fan of as well. But for people who are struggling with blood sugar issues, they need to be aware of getting a little bit of protein in the morning, not doing a lot of caffeine on an empty stomach first thing in the morning, because that's going to stimulate that that cortisol release without those nutrients and that
blood sugar stabilization
to back it up.
So the next piece of it, we start trying to support the adrenal glands, and support the stress response. And so that's when we get into, we like bringing in teas of herbs. And I know, Dr. Anastasia, you're a big fan of Tulsi.
I love Tulsi. So Tulsi's other name is holy basil. It's an Ayurvedic herb used really commonly in India. And I've loved this tea for about the last decade. It's one of my favorites. I always love plants that serve, things that serve more than one purpose or have more than one benefit. And Tulsi is amazing for the immune system, but it's also a really gentle adaptogen. So it helps to regulate our stress response without being stimulating or without being sedating. So you can drink it any time of day, and then I'll mix it with herbs that maybe are more consistent with that time of day. So I might put it with, a nice, some licorice root, which can give us a little bump in extending how long our cortisol is circulating. I think that's a great daytime tea. And at night, I'll have the Tulsi maybe with a little lemon balm or some lavender.
Nice. Sounds delicious.
Yeah, it's such an amazing herb. I love it.
Yeah. And so then, when we're thinking about, sometimes we'll use supplements for people to kind of, to help, again, manage that stress response. And I know one of our other favorites is magnesium glycinate. And magnesium on its own is very relaxing. It's great for daytime. It doesn't make you sleepy or tired. I like it as a sleep agent, like at night too. And then that glycine is extremely calming. So it's an amino acid that's attached to the magnesium that is just kind of, it's like, glycine.
Yeah, so in that form, you get once again, you get the benefit of the amino acid and the magnesium all in one.
Yeah, it's like a double treatment.
Yeah. But still very gentle, so anyone can take it.
Right.
So,
and bees are amazing. So we really want to support the B vitamins because they are one of the first ones that actually get used up when you're starting to experience stress. And when you throw in, like if somebody has a genetic B vitamin mutation or a need or lower methylation, so that's like your MTHFR or your COMT, then your need for those goes up, and so you've got the pull of the B vitamins from the stress response. So those are an absolute must.
Yeah, and we use those B vitamins, and many of the B vitamins, the B6, the folate, the active B12, the methylcobalamin, and also B5, which is huge. Our adrenals use a lot of B5, and also our adrenals use a lot of vitamin C. 40% of our vitamin C stores are utilized in the adrenal glands, and so that's another nutrient that's really, really important.
And most people actually are vitamin C deficient. Dr. Linus
Pauling.
Thank
Pauling.
you. Yeah, vitamin researcher. He put out there that he felt almost everybody should be on 10,000 milligrams per day of vitamin C. And there are ways to find out your perfect dose of vitamin C, but I would say for sure most people need more than what they're getting, which is usually very little. Most people are at 100 milligrams or 200 a day.
That's true, and it can be done through diet to some extent under level homeostatic situations,
Yes,
right? But
yes,
once the stress levels go up, once again, our body burns through those nutrients. So what we can get through our diet with a very conscientious diet full of lots of fruits and vegetables and healthy fats, and what we need under periods of stress are a little bit different for those nutrients.
High demand. You can just think of it that way.
Perfect.
Yeah. So another treatment that we love that's really immune supportive and adrenal supportive are mushrooms, believe it or not. So reishi is one that we both really like. It has such a strong immune supportive element to it, and in fact has been studied for the treatment of HIV and hepatitis C successfully. And of course these are higher doses, probably more than we would be using on a normal stress response, but it's pretty incredible. So that's like capsule, or it can be boiled into a tea actually.
And reishi, cordyceps, a lot of them, the maitake, shiitake, you'll see a lot of combos that are out there. Be conscientious about the ones you get though, because there's some really good lines that are actually processing the mushrooms properly and some that aren't. So, but they are great. They're considered tonics. Like they've been used historically in Chinese medicine for years and years and years. And once again,
hundreds of years, maybe thousands.
So used at even low tonic doses, preventatively and supportively, or at higher doses therapeutically.
Right.
As with a lot of things. And it's really amazing medicine, and they can be combined. There's a lot of adrenal formulas that will combine the mushrooms with some of the other adrenal supportive herbs, like the schisandra and the rhodiola and the Tulsi, and where you get, instead of getting mega doses of anything, you're getting this really nice synergistic support. And these can be, there's some great across the board ones, but if you're somebody who's prone to a little more anxious, like tired but yet kind of wired and anxious, there's herbs that are going to be more gentle and soothing and building. If you're really just depleted and sluggish, there's ones that are going to be a little more stimulating, and so there's a whole spectrum there.
So this might be a good time for us to talk about the herbs and the ones that we like. So the ones that that I would say are more calming and kind of help you, they support you, and so they don't make you tired, but they don't overstimulate you, especially if you tend towards anxiety. So that might be like, ashwagandha, I like, we like Schisandra as well. Is wonderful.
Schisandra my girlfriend. I always say that. Like,
Girlfriend,
it's my favorite,
right?
my favorite herb, and also good for the liver, good for the immune system.
So. And licorice is one as well. Again, very even, helps the immune system.
That's one that needs to be used cautiously with people with high blood pressure.
Yes, that's something that we monitor. Usually in very tiny doses and things, it's fine. But we watch potassium and high blood, or just blood pressure issues in people with that particular one. And even astragalus, and then ones that are a little, probably maybe can tend towards being a little more stimulating, but really like for people that just really are just completely depleted, would be like rhodiola, maca. We really like
the ginseng, so like either the Panax ginseng or the Siberian ginseng, Eleutherococcus, are ones that, once again, a lot of these formulas will just have a little bit in it, and people will do fine with that. But if it's on the higher end, just being conscientious about that, and about what time of day also you use these various.
Right, the more stimulating ones for sure. Yeah, the other ones are usually pretty good anytime. Then we're, sleep is a component of this as well. That's one of our, that's a big topic, because there are a lot of things that can contribute to poor sleep, but, goal, get to bed by 10, if you can, get 8 hours, or the amount of sleep that tends to work for you. Most people, that's 7, 8, 9 hours, depending on who you are.
And really work hard if you've got that flipped kind of circadian rhythm where you get that second wind, because the second wind is a real thing. It's because our body suddenly decides it's going to make some energy and make that cortisol. if you know, like, okay, I always get that, I start to feel tired at 9, but if I'm not in bed in the next half hour, by 10 I'm wired, then really work on like kind of bringing that clock back and trying to meet it so that you can start to get ready for bed and calm down, turn off the electronics, the whole blue
Make it
light.
dark. Yeah, no blue light. Get the red light app.
And before that second wind kicks in, because we can reprogram that, and it's really important because that's when our body repairs itself. That's when our body heals.
And that's what, when most growth hormone is released during that time.
So that whole thing about like beauty rest,
yes, it's very true.
Is true. And once again, it's like as we age, we our growth hormone goes down, and so we do that. The quality of sleep is so much more important.
Yeah. So next we'll just briefly exercise. Really fantastic. Trying to at least get in walking. It's a great stress relief. Yoga, stretching. Things that are a little more. They feel more nourishing, maybe. And for people who are just really struggling, I would say really pushing yourself during that time, and from an exercise front may not be the best choice for you, but that I would say depends on who you are and your fitness level, as well. And then I would say lastly, talking about there's some coming to meditation, which I think is probably one of my favorite ways to encourage people to support themselves, and such incredible research on just taking moments and calming your mind and using deep breathing.
Yeah, and it doesn't, I think a lot of times with meditation, people think, oh, I'm terrible at meditating. I don't know how to just sit there in lotus and clear everything for half an hour. But I mean, I love moving meditation. So I'll go for a walk where I get a little mantra, or focus on circular breathing where I count my breaths, the breaths in, 6 breaths in, hold for 6 breaths, and then 6 breaths out, or 8 breaths out. And then my mind is focused on the breathing, and I'm getting that benefit of all that oxygenation instead of, so there's different types of meditations, and there's some really great apps that also can help with that.
Yes. So probably one of my favorites, because there's so many different options, because we're all so different. Some people, like Dr. Anastasia, likes a walking meditation. Many times I prefer a visualization, or sometimes even just bringing it down to kind of a repeated sound, which is really nice. And other people would prefer to have nature sounds, but all of that's fantastic. It just comes back to quieting the mind, and there's a lot of regeneration that happens in our body during that time, and also calming the brain. Just calming that brain down. So one of my favorites is Insight Timer.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it has 10,000 free meditations and visualizations by just an incredible hundreds of different practitioners. And then there's Headspace. Headspace is a really popular one.
Calm.com. And so once again, not necessarily always being attached to the phone, because that's important to be able to shut down the electronics at some point. But just lastly, just things that we can do also to just limit our stress a little bit. And so the last thing I want to say is that I really encourage patients to learn how to, especially these really crazy times of year, like the holidays, tax season, back to school, just to learn how to say no once in a while. To really go, here's all the stuff on my plate. One more thing's going to make me feel like I'm tipping over the edge. Where can I say no and that it's okay?
Right.
It's okay.
Right. Absolutely.
So say it nicely, but say no.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And as always, we are a resource for you. If you would like guidance in these, if you would like a personalized, tailored plan for you, we are happy to do that for you. If you'd like the testing related, what are your adrenals doing?
Any specific questions you have about what we talked about?
Definitely reach out to us. So you can reach us at sagemedclinic.com. And again, please follow, subscribe, and share below. And we will see you next time.
Thanks.
Thanks.
See you soon.